Well, Celtics fans, we finally made it. The NBA trade deadline is here. Brad Stevens already made some moves yesterday by trading for Xavier Tillman, but reports came out from a close insider of the Boston Celtics that they are still expected to be active just hours away. The NBA trade deadline does end at 3 p.m. Eastern Time today. We are going to be live starting at noon Eastern Time. We're going to cover everything Boston Celtics, but also everything NBA. Anything you guys need to know about the NBA trade deadline, you're going to find right here. But let's talk about the Boston Celtics trade deadline needs just for one quick moment, because Brian Robb is that insider. He did tweet out saying a league source tells Mass Live that Celtics are expected to stay active on the trade front after acquiring Xavier Tillman before tomorrow's deadline. He tweeted this out after Xavier Tillman was traded yesterday. But you got to remember, they have not used the Grant Williams $6.2 million TPE just yet, so why not go out and get a few more players? We're going to break down the top 5 trade targets for the Boston Celtics, but stick around for my take at the very end of the video and your turn to give your opinion. First and foremost, a guy that I have been monitoring pretty much the entire regular season I think could be a huge addition to the Boston Celtics rotation is Cedi Osman. As of right now, the San Antonio Spurs are not having the best season, but they are looking to rebuild around Wembanyama, which is why I think Cedi Osman would be a huge addition to come to the Boston Celtics, because look at the numbers he's putting up. And keep in mind, this is not for a starting 5. This is for rotation pieces and bench players only. 7.3 points per game, 1.8 assists per game, 47% from the field, 37% from the three-point line. Cedi Osman seems like he would really fill that gap in, kind of in between a Sam Hauser and a Peyton Pritchard, but nonetheless, it would give more minutes to somebody like a Cedi Osman to come in the first TV timeout, allow Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, even Derek White or Jrue Holiday, who missed yesterday's game with a slight tweak in his body, to allow more rest and to have more minutes on the floor. The Celtics are really only looking for a player to average about 20 minutes per game. You know, Joe Mazzulla is really heavy on having at least 2 starters in every rotation with the bench, and I think Cedi Osman could be a pretty good fit for the Boston Celtics. One more time, 7.3 points per game could be huge coming off the bench, but nonetheless, that's just the stats that we had to show you guys. Now it's time for you guys to answer. Should the Celtics trade for Cedi Osman? This is not in any type of order of trade targets the Celtics should acquire, but I do really like Cedi for numerous reasons, but that's only my opinion. Go ahead and type Y for yes, type in for no. Let's go ahead and bring up the second top trade target for the Boston Celtics, none other than Mr. Sadique Bey, who popped off against the Boston Celtics last night. 25 points, 9 rebounds, 1 steal, and he went 9 for 16 from the field, which is about 56%, and then 4 for 7 from the three-point line. Let me tell you a little story here. The reason why Kristaps Porzingis is a Boston Celtic is because he went off against the Boston Celtics when he was still on the Washington Wizards. He had 33 points against that game. The way Sadique Bay was playing last night looked like he was trying to impress one person, and that's Brad Stevens. And here's the best part. The Grant Williams $6.2 million TPE is still in use. How much does Saddiq Bey cost? $4.5 million. If he can score over a 20-piece against the Boston Celtics, imagine what he can do on the Boston Celtics. 25 points, 9 rebounds. I mean, JT would have so much taken off his plate if he had somebody currently in the rotation that had 9 rebounds per game. He was playing lights out. Does he have inconsistent moments? Absolutely. Most NBA players do. But from what I saw from Saddiq Bey last night against the Boston Celtics, I could definitely see him in a Boston Celtics uniform. And the way he was playing looked like he wanted to be one. We're going to break down the next 3 top trade targets, in my opinion, in just a few moments. But first, this show would not be possible without PrizePicks, the #1 daily fantasy sports app in America right now. And it's just so much fun. All you guys have to do is go to prizepicks.com/CLNS. Be sure to use promo code CLNS when you get there. All you guys have to do is pick between 2 to 6 players and just pick more or less on their projected stats, and you can win up to 25 times your money. The big game is coming up. You guys know what big game I'm talking about. PrizePicks actually has a really good promotion going on right now. 99% off of Patrick Mahomes' passing yards. If he has more than a passing yard, you win. And we all know how Patty Mahomes plays. So I took the more. I took more in all these picks because life's too short. I always go the more, including Christian McCaffrey to have more than 90.5 rushing yards, and even Isaiah Pacheco. And if you see that little red guy next to his stats, well, that's because that's a demon. That means harder the pick, bigger the payout. See the green version of him, that's a goblin. Easier pick, not as much of a payout, but it's the big game. I'm going with a demon on this pick. Isaiah Pacheco to have more than 99.5 rushing yards. You can copy my picks, or you can make your own. All you have to do is go to prizepicks.com/CLNS. When you get there, I just ask one thing of you. Be sure to use promo code CLNS. That's how PrizePicks knows that you are a Chat Sports watcher, and you're going to get a deposit match up to $100 on your first entry. Go on ahead and go to prizepicks.com/CLNS for a $100 deposit match on your first entry and watch yourself win some real money in real time. Not breaking news of any sort, but I've still been a huge fan of Andre Drummond and what he could do now with Xavier Tillman on the roster. I think these two would be dominant on defense on the Boston Celtics, who have struggled recently on defensive rebounds primarily. But a report did come out from Chris Haynes earlier yesterday saying that the goal of the Bulls is to stay competitive this season. In my opinion, if you stay competitive, you don't give up Andre Drummond. But I'm not in the GM office. I don't know what the Bulls exactly are looking for in their competitiveness. So if they do want to give up like a player like Andre Drummond or an Alex Caruso, I'm all for it because I think they could do some damage. And I do love Al Horford and Kristaps Porzingis, but some width on a player like Andre Drummond kind of gives me the same vibe as Neemias Queta, but with a little bit more experience on there. But nonetheless, Andre Drummond could possibly still come to the Boston Celtics roster this season, but that leaves me with one question to ask you guys. Should the Celtics even make another move before the deadline? They added Xavier Tillman, which is going to be a wing depth and a big man depth. He's about 6'7", so they can play him at both positions depending on who's hurt. He provides injury insurance, and he also provides a little bit of bench assets. So, do you guys think it's even necessary to go back out there and make another move? I want to hear your opinions. Go ahead and comment why or why not down below in the comment section. And I just want to remind you guys, we are going to be live today at noon Eastern Time, giving you everything you need to know about the Boston Celtics or just the NBA trade deadline. If Brad Stevens makes another move, we're going to be live, full-blown live reaction. You guys need to comment along with us. And if you've joined our watch parties before, we have a good time. So, with that being said, let's break down our final two top targets for the Boston Celtics. Nick Richards, averaging 9.5 points per game, which is nearly 10. I love that. Nearly 8 rebounds per game, 1.3 blocks. I mean, it'll fit right in with the Boston Celtics with JB, KP, and Luke Cornett, who have Block City down packed. 67% from the field is amazing. But the one thing I love about Nick Richards is 25.7 minutes per game. Doesn't mean he has to play 25 minutes per game for the Celtics, but it's good to know that he's capable of doing that for the Charlotte Hornets. He provides size. He provides secondary scoring. I've loved somebody like a point guard like Peyton Pritchard, but sometimes you can't always rely on his box score. Just to have somebody else come in and average about 10 points per game is huge. Through 40 games this season for the Boston Celtics, I see no problem with acquiring Nick Richards, but it's not up to me. Another player, the last player I want to talk about is John Konchar. A little bit older of a player, but I do think, A, he would be a great locker room presence, and B, he does have a lot to offer just in the sense of what he provides off the box score. When you look at his stats, they're not going to be flashy. Don't yell at me saying he's not a good player. We're looking for bench pieces. 4 points per game, 1.8 assists, 41% from the field, which is not great, and 30% from the three-point line, but you got to remember, the Memphis Grizzlies suck this season, so he's not going to play well if the Grizzlies aren't playing well. But nonetheless, I think it'd be a little bit harder to kind of acquire a player like John Konchar because we did just acquire Xavier Tillman from the same exact team, the Memphis Grizzlies. And in return, we've already given him 2027 second-round pick and a 2030 second-round pick and Lamar Stevens. I just can't see Brad Stevens giving up more draft picks and more players to the same team, especially a team that's very good when they're fully healthy. I don't think Brad Stevens would make a move like that. So nonetheless, I'm probably going to go of 4 out of the 5 top trade targets here to be more of a realistic trade. But overall, here's my take. Bring Bey to Boston. The way Sadique Bay played against the Boston Celtics last night, I wanted him on the team more than anybody I had this entire regular season. However, I do believe a trade with Sadique Bay would depend on a DeJounte Murray trade, depending how much the Hawks would give up, if they'd be willing to give up a Sadique Bay to Boston. Plus, being a $4.5 million player, I'm not sure if Brad Stevens would want to go the $4.5 million route or acquire somebody that's a little bit cheaper. He did just get Xavier Tillman, who's $1.9 million. Maybe $4.5 million isn't where Brad Stevens wants to go, but personally, I think Sadique Bay would be worth it. Like I said, the reason why we have Celtics Today is I talk, I show you the stats, and then you guys talk. Name a player Boston should go after. We gave you 5 top trade targets the Celtics have been looking at the entire regular season, but now it's your turn. You've got a couple more hours to put your answers in. Let me know who you guys want on the Boston Celtics. And if you guys want to put it in the comments, feel free to come join our live show, live at noon Eastern Time today. You're not going to want to miss this. Why? Because it's not just going to be about the Boston Celtics trade rumors. It's going to be about the entire NBA as well. If you just want to be in the know of the entire NBA trade deadline, one of the most hectic days of the year, all you guys have to do is join our watch party. And if you've been here before, you know we have a good time. Nonetheless, hit that subscribe button because if anything happens, even if you guys aren't able to join live, we're still going to put out videos for you guys. So be sure to go on ahead and subscribe.